Hi students, this is Mathura, PGT Biology, Ponvidyashram, Kolapakam. I am taking the lesson Unit 1, Diversity in the Living World. In this, we are seeing the first chapter, the living world. As for, we have seen what are the difference between the living things and the non-living thing, and the need for classification and the classification binomial nomenclature we have seen in the previous video. In this video, we are going to see about the taxonomy. A Swedish naturalist named Carlos Linnaeus is considered as the father of taxonomy. He is the first person who classified animals in his book System Naturae. So, all the organisms are classified into different categories, and these categories are called as taxa. The process of classification is called as taxonomy. Each and every organisms are classified into different categories, and these categories are called as taxa. Taxus is meaning orderly arrangement, and normus means law. Taxonomy definition is taxonomy is the study of principles and procedure of classification, and taxonomy includes study of following 4 points. What are all the 4 points? Identification of living organisms, nomenclature of living organisms, that is naming the living organism, classification of living organisms in groups based on their morphological and genetical similarities, affinities, study of interrelationship between living organisms, how all the living organisms are interrelated with one another, that is comes under affinities. Actually, the basic process of taxonomic studies are organisms are described on the basis of morphology and other characteristics. That is what identification deals with. So, the organism with a similar morphology and genetic characteristics are grouped together. The description of characteristics helps in placement of the organisms in various taxa. Taxa is the different levels in the classification. So, each organism based on their description, they are placed under different taxa. And new taxon can be framed if the organism is different from the existing taxa. So, if a new organism is found and it is having a different characteristics, it can be placed under a new taxon. So, the taxonomy is subjected to changes. The correct naming of an organism can be done after placing it in appropriate taxon. A new organism can be given a new name after following the standardized rules. So, based on the binomial name nomenclature, the new organism will be given a new name in case of taxonomy. So, coming to taxonomy versus systematics. We have already seen what is systematics. Now, we are going to see the difference between taxonomy and systematics. Based on the definition, taxonomy is the discipline of classifying organisms into taxa by arranging them in a highly ordered manner. It is a classification, it is a discipline in which the organisms are classified under different taxa. Whereas systematics is a broad field of biology that studies the diversification of species. Systematics not only deals with classification, it deals with the diversification of the species. The variation in the species can be seen in systematics. Coming to the importance, the name, description, arrangement and identification of a certain species is done by taxonomy, whereas systematics provide a layout for all those taxonomic functions. Coming to evolutionary history of species, evolutionary history of species is not studied in case of taxonomy, whereas evolutionary history of species is studied in systematics. As systematics deals with the diversification of the living organism, it obviously deals with the evolutionary changes. Environmental conditions. Environmental conditions are indirectly related in case of taxonomy, whereas environmental conditions are directly related for the analysis. because as it is dealing with the diversification, environmental conditions are taken into account in case of systematics. Change with time. Taxonomy is subject to change with time, as I have already told you. Whenever each new organism is found, if it is having a different characteristics, new taxon will be introduced. In case of systematics, it does not change with time. Here we are only studying about the diversification, so there is no change with time. Coming to taxonomic category, it is a class into which organisms are placed all the taxa that rank at the same level in a hierarchic classification. Species is a lower category, and from the genus up are higher categories. So, species is the lowest category, and the higher category starts from genus to kingdom and realm. Taxa are based on zoological realities, categories are based on concepts. In that respect, there is no difference between the category species and the higher categories. In many other respects, there is a great deal of difference between the concept of the species and the concept of the higher categories. Here, taxa is based on the zoological realities. It deals with the organism, whereas category means the position of the organism in the hierarchy. So, there is a difference between the taxa and the category. We will see what is taxon and the category. So, this is the difference between taxon versus category. Taxon deals with real biological objects, that is, it deals with the organism, whereas category is an abstract term that simply represents a rank or level in classification. So, the organism where it is positioned in the hierarchy, that is described by category. Taxon may belong to any ranking. In the organism can belong to any ranking, whereas in category it belongs to one particular ranking. So, an example is given for better understanding, that is the taxon of humans is Mammalia, whereas the category of humans is class. So, Mammalia belongs to the category class. So, humans are grouped under Mammalia, and this Mammalia is categorized under class. This class is common for all the organisms categories, okay, but Mammalia is a specific term given for humans. That is the difference between taxon and categories. Coming to the 7 taxonomic categories, it is a common system followed in case of taxonomy. This is also called as Linnaean system of classification, in which the organisms are classified under 7 categories. What are all the 7 taxonomic categories? They are species, genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom. Here it is stated from lower level to higher level. The lowest level is the species, whereas the highest level is the kingdom. So, what are the difference in these categories? We will see. Species, a group of organisms that breed with one another and produce fertile offspring. A group of individuals which have a morphological and genetical similarities, and they can interbreed themselves, are grouped under one category called species. And genus, a group of closely related species. A group of closely related species are put under genus. Family, genera that share many characteristics. Different genera which share some similar characteristics are grouped under family. Order is a broad taxonomic category composed of similar families. So, families with a similar characteristics are grouped under order. Class is a composed of similar orders. Similar orders are placed under class. Phylum, several different classes that share important characteristics are grouped under phyla. Kingdom, kingdom is the highest category in the Linnaean classification system. So, it has a largest taxonomic group consisting of closely related phyla. Coming to an example so that we can understand the classification better. So, first here coyote and a grey wolf is compared. Okay, they both belong to the same domain, that is eukarya, that is eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are the organism having true nuclei, that is a nucleus with a definite nuclear membrane. They belong to the same kingdom Animalia, they belong to the animal kingdom, and they belong to the same phyla Chordata. They have the vertebral column. They belong to the same class Mammalia. They belong to the group mammals. That is, they produce their offspring. They give birth to the baby animals, and they belong to the order Carnivora. This is based on their feeding habits. They feed on other animals for their food, and they belong to the order Carnivora, and they belong to the family Canidae. So, they have the canine tooth. So, they are grouped under a family Canidae, and they are also grouped under the genus Canis, but their species name is different, whereas coyote has a species name latrans, and grey wolf has the species name lupus. So, you can compare and differentiate. So, only the species name is different for the both the animal. Other than that, they share the similarities. Up to kingdom, they have the same similarities. So, they are grouped under this same categories. Only the species name is different. So, this is for a better understanding. Coming to 5 kingdom classification. In the Linnaean system of classification, fungi was not given a prominent place, but fungi contribute the maximum number of organisms in the plant kingdom. So, Robert Whittaker, he put the fungi in a different domain. So, that is called as 5 kingdom of classification. The position of fungi was not well established, oscillating between kingdoms Protista and Plantae. So, in that 7 categories, fungi was not doesn't belong to either Protista or Plantae. So, it was given a new position. So, in 1969, Robert Whittaker proposed a 5th kingdom to include them, the called kingdom fungi. So, the 5 kingdom of classification includes the 5 positions, that is plants, animals, fungi, protists and bacteria. Plants consist of the kingdom Plantae, all the plants are included there. Kingdom Animaliae includes all the animals. Kingdom Fungi includes all the fungi. Kingdom Protist includes all the protozoans, whereas Kingdom Bacteria includes all the prokaryotes. Apart from all these 7 categories, there are intermediate categories. Let us start from the highest to the lowest level. Reem is the highest level. It has a intermediate level, subreem, and kingdom is the next highest level. It has a intermediate category, that is subkingdom. Phylum, it has intermediate category, subphylum. Class, intermediate category, subclass. Order, intermediate category, suborder. Family, intermediate category, subfamily. Genus, intermediate category, subgenus, and species is the lowest category. With this, taxonomy is over. In the next video, we will see about the taxonomical aid. Stay home and stay safe, children. Thank you.